Welcome to the 111 Approach podcast, your go-to space for deep thoughts, real talk, and exploration of everything from spirituality to self-development and the mysteries of life with some light-hearted humour along the way. I'm your host, Lakshmi, aka the 1 Minute Healer, and each episode will dive into different topics, sometimes personal, sometimes thought-provoking, but always authentic. So whether you're here for some new perspectives, inspiration, or just a fresh take on the world with a bit of randomness thrown into the mix, you're definitely in the right place. So what are you waiting for? Let's get into it. Hi, it's Lakshmi here, and before we start this week's episode, I need your help. Next year, I am taking on the biggest charity challenge I've ever done. Now, for those of you who know me well, you know I love to do things for charity ever since I was a child, from sponsored dance-a-thons, sponsored silences. Yes, I know, hard to believe me being quiet, right? Sponsored abseilings down buildings, and last year, even sleeping out on the streets of London in the middle of October in just a sleeping bag. I really try and push and immerse myself in things to raise money for good causes. And next year, I am climbing Mount Kilimanjaro for not one, but two amazing children's charities. Cordwell Children, who help disabled and autistic children all over the world, and Cordwell Youth, who empower at-risk adults aged 11 to 24. Now, this is the biggest challenge I've ever taken on because, number one, the target I need to hit is the biggest one to date. I need to raise £5,000, all of which goes to the charities, because actually the trip and expedition itself is self-funded. But hey, if you're a business and would like to sponsor that side of it, please get in touch with me. And number two, I've never climbed a mountain in my life. Although I did make up my mind at age 5 that I did find a mountain in Canada and claimed it as my own. But that's a story for another day. So please, if you are able to make a donation, no matter how big or small, it will really help me reach that target. And I will be forever grateful to you, as will the children who the money will go to. So thank you again. The link will be in the show notes below. And enjoy this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the 111 Approach podcast with me, Lakshmi, aka the 1 Minute Healer. And as always, before we get into today's episode, I want to say thank you so much for everyone who is listening to this and for everyone who has supported and followed the podcast and myself. Really appreciate the support. But without further ado, this is a 111 Approach podcast exclusive because it is the first time I have not one amazing guest, but I have two amazing guests in the same virtual room, I should say, because we're not in person. And actually, it's a double exclusive because it's the first time I've got the same guest on twice. So without further ado, I'd like to reintroduce Saira, who is the beautiful nutritionist who doesn't share food. Everybody really loved that title, by the way. And I was so impressed. I was like, I came up with that myself. It was no AI stuff. But anyway, we all loved to hear about Saira's journey and her struggles with OCD, especially through COVID, but also her transition into what she does now, helping people look and feel their best without having to cut out their favourite. But we thought it'd be really interesting to get someone who knows Saira from birth and get his perspective on how it was for him being in the same house, growing up, seeing his sister go through these struggles and how he kind of navigated through that. And so it is my pleasure to introduce not just Saira's older brother, but also an award-winning international DJ. Shraii, thank you so much for being here and joining us on this first ever duo guest podcast. Please just enlighten the listeners, give us a little bit of your origin story.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks for having me, and appreciate the introduction. So yeah, I obviously first and foremost am Saira's older brother. We've got 4-year age gap. So but a little bit about me. I'm a DJ, as you said, award winning. I have somehow won some awards during my time, and international. Yeah, I am all over the world all year round playing music for thousands of people, which is great. It's good fun, but it can be tiring. A little bit of brief background. I did go to school and uni. I studied law. I did 5 years on BBC Radio as a presenter. And now we're here, essentially. So yeah, I suppose that's basically me in a few sentences in a nutshell.
Amazing. Okay. Before we come on to you, Saira, because I do want to just dig a little bit deeper, because people who know me know that music is my drug. And so, and also dancing. So I'm like, you two are my favorite duo. Saira with the dancing, you with the music. But I'd love to like just delve in a little bit more about how you went from a law degree to music, and then follow-up question, what kind of music, what kind of DJing, and just hit us with some like cool DJ stories.
So, real quick, as I said, like musically, Saira will tell you as well. We grew up in a very music heavy household. Our parents always blasting tunes, not just Asian tunes, but like a lot of Motown stuff, 80s, 70s music up until we were old enough to control the music ourselves. There was always something playing, whether it was the radio. Back then, we did a lot of Kiss 100 and Capital and stuff like that. And yeah, I think music was always just part of our lives growing up. I was always interested in music, actually, even during university. And just before that, actually, I bought my first pair of decks when I was like 16. But I didn't realize how much of a career I could have in this music world. So whilst I was at uni studying law, I was like doing lectures and loads of reading and stuff. Those that studied law know you're expected to read like hours and hours every week. So I was doing that, and then I'd finish at 6, 7 o'clock, and then I'd head off to Ministry of Sound or whatever to DJ till like 6 in the morning.
Wow.
So yeah, that was what I was doing whilst I was at uni. And then when I came out of university, I started doing the LPC, which I think it's changed name now. But back then, that was what you do after your degree to become a solicitor in my case, or you can do the bar to become a barrister. But I chose the solicitor route. And by the time I finished that, I had a call from BBC Asian Network, and they wanted me to come and do a show. It was initially a 6 month show, something like that, and that turned into 3 or 4 years, and then there was a year and a half or 2 years of just covering every presenter you can think of. From back then, it was Bobby Friction, Yassa, Hit Squad, Harp's Core. I can't remember who else. AJD. I was covering everyone, and then yeah, I sort of thought radio is cool, but not for me right now. And I loved it, but I was like at the same time, I was just a bit like, maybe not yet, not time for radio yet. And also, I couldn't commit to covering randomly at that time, so I just stuck with clubs for a long time. This is actually the first year I have not done many clubs. I've focused a lot on the wedding side, particularly international weddings of American clients. I don't know how it's happened, but it's happened. So a lot of my clients are from the States, and I do their weddings when they come here into Europe and yeah, all over the world now. So that's essentially how it happened, and I haven't really looked back since. On Friday, I did the biggest gig of my life. I was at the Arijit Singh concert. I was opening up the show
Oh, wow.
to like nearly 60,000 people. So that was the biggest gig of my life so far. I doubt I'll play for that many people ever again, and I doubt, I doubt it'll be anything like that ever again. But who knows? Sky's the limit.
Who knows? We don't say that. Onwards and upwards. Now you've hit that level. Next level is 100,000. Next, we're putting out there. Amazing. That's so interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So now, Styra, how's your journey been since the last episode came out?
Yeah, so I had some really good comments, which I think you saw on Instagram. A lot of people can relate, or they had interest in that story. And actually, one of my friends said that she really liked the name that you put about not sharing food. She really liked that as well. So yeah, and I think it was just nice for even people that were close to me to listen, like even my parents listened to it, and to hear it obviously from a different perspective. Although they almost lived through it, it's different when you hear it in that sense. So I think it was a good chance for my following and my clients and people I know to hear it in the way it was. So I think, and like I said last time, it was the first time I've publicly spoken about it. I'm very open, like with people I meet one on one. But I think now that I've done it once, I'm more comfortable to do it again. So it was a good opportunity.
Yeah, and I remember because you said that it was the first time you were going to share it. And honestly, like the amount of people that messaged me afterwards saying how much they could relate to what you were saying. So I wanted to say again, thank you so much for being open and vulnerable and sharing your story, because what people don't realize is, especially when you're in quote unquote limelight, or if you're like on socials or you're trying to be a leader in your field, as you both are, we have this tendency to like put on this perfect persona for the screen, right? For the camera, whether that's on your socials or whether that's in work space. And me as well, I'm an energy healer. So I'll be honest, like the times when I do get a little bit ill, I'm just like, shit, I can't share that I'm not feeling well, because people have turned around and said to me, well, can't you just heal yourself? And I'm like, bitch, I'm still human. Like, I'll still catch a flu and stuff, you know? So it's now, I'm kind of over that bit now where I'm like thinking I have to be this perfect, spiritual, holy person. Because when you learn more about what real spirituality is, it's all about duality. So you've got to have the light with the shadow as well, and you've got to like really take a good hard look at yourself, all the good bits, but also the bits where you're probably not so happy with, but learn to
Yeah.
love and accept them as well. So it's about sharing, and a lot of people relate to more of the struggles than the wins, you know, because everyone's gone through something. So let's get into, well, rewinding and recapping a little bit of your journey, and maybe might be good to just give a few minutes of what you went through during COVID with your OCD. And then I'm going to hand it over to Shraii to say to his perspective on how it's been. One of the questions we definitely wanted to explore was, Shraii, how was Saira as a child? And where did this maybe kind of stem from? Has she always had this thing with the food and the sharing?
Yeah, so we spoke last time a lot about the OCD, that it may have always been there, but it definitely, I think, was more apparent or maybe got worse. I wouldn't say during lockdown. I think that was like really good for me because I had exams and, I didn't have to worry about missing social events and things. I just kind of got on with what I had to do. It was the coming out of COVID that we spoke a lot about last time. So transitioning from not seeing people, you don't need to worry about germs and things because they're in your own house. So that was the most difficult part. And also because I wanted to be social, but because of the rules, like I felt like I shouldn't be or I couldn't. And then I had some friends that were really good and they did tests before we met, and that was easy for me. And then I had other friends or family that were very relaxed. So it's almost like, I either go but sit far away or I miss out. So
Yeah. So on that note, Shraii, were you one of the people who was quite like following the rules or quite lax, would you say?
So if it was up to me, I probably would have been a bit more relaxed, but I realized I lived in a house with three others, including Saira, obviously our parent, and Saira. So I felt like we should probably stick to the rules because, like for example, Dad's got a brother that he looks after. He's got some disabilities and didn't want to sort of make, for my benefit to go out and meet friends in the park or whatever when we weren't allowed to, and then transfer something to him, and then he transfers to his brother. And the same with my mum, and so her mum, so my nanny or my grandmother. I didn't want to affect someone else. But if I was living on my own, I'd be like, yeah, just come over, it's fine. Like, I can get it. I'm not gonna spread it to anyone. But yeah, I think initially, like everyone was, I think everyone was sticking to the rules. My work is so social and going out and clubs and bars and restaurants or whatever. That's like my whole life. So then after a while, I'm just like, oh my God, this is so frustrating. I just want to go and sit in the pub for an hour or whatever. Obviously, it's closed, but that was your thought process. But I had to kind of think about it in who's in my household. Would it be fair if I went out and caught something and then transferred it to one of these guys or whatever? Probably not. So I kind of kept my wits about me and didn't in the end break any rules. Yeah, I think we as a house, like it was so concentrated, so like, or saturated, so people would know, oh, Shrai's gone out. Like I couldn't even lie, or like when you're younger, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go see my mate, and you go out at a party or whatever. Couldn't even do that, right? Um,
Yeah.
because you're all just, and also everyone's timelines got messed up and sleeping patterns got messed up, and people were up till 4 in the morning and stuff. So it's not like I could even try if I wanted to. So yeah,
Sneak out.
as much as I didn't want to, I think the rules were stuck to.
Yeah, no, I get that. And just quickly to touch on, obviously your career pretty much had to be put on hold, right? So how did you manage that? Because I remember logging on to like online parties and things that were hosted by DJs and
Yeah.
stuff. So is that something that you then adapted to,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
what did you do?
definitely. So there was a pool of us, our sort of wedding company, if you like. We came together and we were doing like we did a 24-hour marathon one day, and we did
That first, well, I've forgotten what it was called. It was the first ever Desi one, wasn't it? Like a 24
yeah,
hour
that was us.
online rave.
Yeah, that was
Was
us.
it hosted by Shanti or something like that? Was it that one?
No, no, it was Musical Movements and I think Avari Events, I think was the name of the company.
I just remember I was so on
We were
it.
the first one for sure.
So then it was that one then, yeah. Because then I know I went on
Yeah,
that one and then I was like, oh, it's the first ever 24-hour marathon one.
we did loads of stuff. We did like a cocktail making thing with a DJ. Like, so our friends bar, and they would deliver cocktail kits to houses, and then they would tune in, and we would DJ, and they would make the cocktail and drink and have a little party. So yeah,
Very
we do loads of
cool.
stuff. But I was okay. Like, you talking about, the career, and like financially, I was okay because I was still on the radio. I felt
Okay.
bad for those that, you know, relied on live performances or live shows or whatever. Those people, I feel like, struggled, especially if they weren't being streamed as much as they used to be. The ones that relied on like live PA shows in clubs, those are the people that struggled. And the DJs that didn't have radio as well, like, I don't know what they were doing. I wasn't all that stuff, but I was okay. I had the radio, to answer your question. It wasn't great, obviously, but it was all right.
Yeah.
I think as well it was a bit difficult because I had like my final 2 years of uni, I had to write a dissertation at the same time that Shraii wanted to obviously keep busy, do loads of Instagram live. So in terms of like playing music and I'm
Mhm.
studying, we had to kind of balance out the times of, so it was fair for both. 'Cause obviously I couldn't study with really loud music. So there was
Yeah.
a bit of like, okay, how are we going to organize? So we used to just kind of split the time. So it was
Yeah.
adapting like that as
I
well.
remember that actually. It's a good point. I remember that because, Saira would have a break for dinner, say, I don't know, 6, 7:30, and I would jump on um, the decks in my
Yeah.
bedroom and just whack out like 10 TikTok mixes or whatever, and then I spend the rest of the evening editing them and putting them online,
Yeah.
or scheduling them or whatever. Like, that was another thing I could do. I could grow online. So I did okay on TikTok. I got to like 10K really fast, and then by that time, COVID was basically done, so I kind of neglected it. My Instagram grew as well, but yeah, I was okay. I was all right.
So many people struggled with the social aspect. For me personally, we lost my dad at the very beginning of lockdown when no one,
Mm.
even the doctors, didn't know what was going on. So there was a lot of fear and uncertainty, even with the so-called experts. And I just remember the day my dad passed away, luckily we were able to be by his side at the hospital in the ICU. Again, that was a miracle in itself because they were saying only one person.
Mm.
And by God's grace, we had all 4 of us there at the time
Yeah,
he passed away. That wasn't even like allowed, but somehow it happened, right? So I'm always very grateful. But I just remember we were there, our freaking dads just died. And we were too scared to even hug each other because we were like, we're in the hospital. So we had to come home, shower, and then we hugged each other. And it was the most fucked up situation I've
Mm.
ever been in. And the next day, when like our family came over, and again, only one family at a time standing outside, and we're all crying. And like, the only thing you need is someone to hug you. Like, you can't say
mm,
shit to someone who's just lost their dad. Like, you can't, no words are ever gonna help, but a hug could just be comforting. And I remember I was like, this is the most fucked up thing. Like, I realized in that moment how important social interaction was,
Yeah.
because there's times where words can't do shit, and it's actually you need your people
yeah,
around you. So it was a crazy, crazy time. But let's go back to Saira's the food stuff. So can you kind of cast your mind back to when you first noticed it, Shraii? And like, how was that?
yeah. Obviously, looking back now, we can make a bit of a light-hearted situation about it because obviously Cyrus over the years has improved. Obviously, COVID was a different time for everyone. I think you can't really judge someone's OCD during COVID. You can't just
Yeah.
isolate that and say, right, that's how she is. It's obviously the whole world is in a different situation. But I think the first time I ever noticed it, she must have been, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. She was having, I think we were going to one of her activities she had after school. Her mum's driving, I'm in the back, and she's in the front. Also, why were you in the front and I was in the back? Anyway, that's another conversation.
Probably
She was
shotgun.
having crisps, and she was having one crisp, eating it, and then she'd have a wet wipe there, and she'd just clean her hands, and then she would go for another crisp, and then repeat the same thing for the whole bag. And I think that's the first time I ever noticed it. I was like, because I was 9, 10 years old, something like that. And I was like, what do you do? And she goes, I don't like the crumbs on my hands. And like, she really, obviously she was young, she couldn't really explain it properly, but she really hated the idea that something's going in her mouth in the bag. That was her just having it to herself.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So even though you were not sharing the bag of
Yeah.
crisps, you didn't like the feeling that your hands were dirty and they'd gone in your mouth and you were going to put it in. Okay.
And I think
Interesting.
that if you fast forward even to this summer, and we went to Egypt, and it reminded me that Saira, I think this is just a thing. Saira doesn't like she won't go in the water and then step on
sea.
the sand, for example, or the sea. Sorry, yeah. So she doesn't like the whole feet wet, sand dries on it. Do you know what I mean? Like she doesn't
I
like
mean,
that.
I'll be honest, I'm right there with you, girl, because who
Yeah.
likes wet sand on their feet? That
And I
was enough
don't
for
like
me.
sand on my sunbed or anywhere
Yeah.
where, yeah, I'm not a sand beach person.
And so I think it's quite a similar thing to the crisp thing, because the crisp thing
Yeah,
at that
maybe.
stage, it's not hygiene, right? Because she's the only one eating it. So I think it may be just a crumb thing, like a
Oh, it's like a
It might be
sensory
the
thing.
sensory feel. I'll be
maybe,
honest,
yeah.
that actually reminds me, yeah, I totally can resonate with that because do you remember blackberries? I mean, do they
Yeah.
still make blackberries? I don't know. But remember when the BlackBerry phone came out and it had that little round circular ball
Yeah.
thing to rotate
Yeah.
the cursor? Oh my God. It just made me feel such a weird sensation. And that was the only reason I went to Apple, because my friend was trying to say, no, get the BlackBerry. And I'm like, I can't use that cursor button because every time my finger touched it, something inside me would be like, no, don't do it. So you know what? It's not as weird as you think in terms of sensory
I think it is a feeling.
Maybe go on
Because
back.
even when I'm cooking, in between, obviously you pick things up with your hand and you chop things. Like sometimes in between things, I rinse my hand like quite a lot when I'm cooking. I notice that as well. So maybe
You
it
should
is
be a
that.
chef. Very hygienic.
But I think that's the earliest sign I ever
Memory.
noticed something. I don't know if that was OCD. I don't know if that was that. I'm not sure. But I think the OCD thing is more so when, like plated fries arrives, everyone just picks up a couple. So I will not touch it after that. Like if people have put their hands in the bowl, it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, or I say to people, can I just take a handful now and then you can all eat the rest?
Yeah, I was going to say, you get first dibs and take as many
Yeah.
as you want.
Yeah, but it's difficult because people that I've known for a long time, they still can't remember. And then it's like I either announce it again and then like I feel like I'm just creating an issue, or I just don't eat them. So it's difficult.
So question on that one. When you say people that is it people that you've been around regularly, or it's that you just know them and it's been a while and you meet up and you're at the restaurant and then they just forget?
I think a mix of both. Like some people I've known for a long time, but at the same time, I also don't expect people to eat in a way that's just around me. So I try to sometimes, like, I try to ask for serving spoons, or I'll just say, like, can you bring 2 sauces? So then, like, I'll just have my own and then they can carry on because I don't want them to feel like they can't eat how they want. So it's kind of finding that balance.
Yeah. Because I've found that, like, my sister's quite particular, not with food. Well, yeah, actually with food and stuff. But I remember because she's always been vegetarian. We grew up vegetarian, and then I went to uni, and then I lived opposite a KFC, and then I was like, I'll just have a KFC. And then for about 15 years. I just ate everything under the sun. I've gone back to being vegetarian now for the last 6 years. But I remember there was a time when I was booking some flights. I think it was when we were going to Australia, me and my sister. And because I used to eat meat at the time, I completely forgot to order her a vegetarian meal. And she was like, how can you forget? And I'm like, shit, like I haven't, because I don't live with her and stuff, but I genuinely forgot that she was vegetarian. And she was quite upset. And then I ended up getting it changed and stuff. But I found it really interesting. I was like, damn, that's my sister. Like I should have like remembered, right? But you forget sometimes.
Yeah, and then I feel like sometimes, and like I don't want to put pressure like to say to Shraii like remember to like remind everyone because this adds pressure for him. So I think it's just sometimes I just have to manage it in my own way without saying it. Depends who I'm with. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and I think it's different. Like obviously when I used to go out with you and your friends before I had my own circle, obviously you're all quite, chilled, like a lot of people are. It's like if the food comes, you just there's no like thought behind it about forks and plates. It's just like just go in, just use your hands and get on with it. Whereas for me, there's a whole like thought process behind of okay, like what if I bring it and then they haven't bought a spoon, but then by the time the spoon comes, it's too late because everyone would have started touching it. Whereas for you guys, it's just that part's all out. It's just normal conversation.
Wow. So do you find that quite draining then, Saira? Like mentally draining, or are you just so used to it now? It's like second nature. Like, okay, this is like my normal train of thought
I
now.
think, yeah, I think a bit of both. I think coming out of COVID, it was quite draining because, like we spoke last time, it was
Mm.
very like, what hand would I use for a drink, and then the other hand I can use for food. And it was if I accidentally forgot, I'd have to like sanitize it again, and like that was more draining. I think now it's still a little bit like sometimes I can't be bothered. Like some toilets you have to go all the way downstairs to wash your hands, and I'm just like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do that. Whereas other people can just eat, right? So I find it annoying sometimes myself, but then I think I'm more of a system now that I'll try and just think, okay, I've washed my hands now, I've ordered, so it's fine to just carry on. And I try and think to myself, like, what would other people say? So when I think about people like Shraii or some of my other friends, and I'm like, oh, they wouldn't care, so maybe I should try and not care.
Yeah, but I think that's also a bit of a personality thing because, like, yeah, I have this ongoing debate with my two of my friends, like my school friends. We have this debate about street food in like India or something,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, and they're like, we would never go near it, and I'm like, you're crazy. It's like the tastiest food in the world. And the bottom line, I was saying of like, as long as I don't see like flies and maggots and rats or whatever, like just something disgusting, I'll just eat it. It's fine. It's unlikely to kill me. And I would always just say to them, what's the worst that can happen? Like, what's actually the worst? You might be ill for two or 3 days. You might have diarrhea or whatever, right? That's the worst. But I sacrificed that for some of the tastiest food in the world. And I think with in
Yeah.
Saira's case, it's like the washing hands thing. I remember when she had her exams in during lockdown, like you had exams, right? You were saying
Yeah, I had
exams.
two, third year and fourth year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember she would like come out of her room, like, to go on a break or grab a snack. She'd wash her hands. She'd go down, have a snack, wash her hands, and then come up, wash her hands, and then start working again. And I didn't get it. And I was like, you're gonna damage your hands. And she
I
was like,
did damage my
no,
hands.
yeah, but look how much improvement you've made. I don't think you'd repeat that same routine anymore. You might wash your hands once or twice, but not 3 or 4 times. Is my
Yeah.
point.
And I remember because where your room is, like, the bathroom's in the middle. So, like,
Yeah.
sometimes I would, like, try and do it where, like, it wasn't as noticeable, but obviously you could always hear it because the tap's, like, there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was yeah, obviously now it's a lot better, but I think, yeah, there was usually a process behind it, but it's kind of lessened now. And I think there's always more you can think about. Like, sometimes you would say to me, like, "Oh, but you eat in a restaurant, but you don't know, like, if the chefs have washed their hands." Like, there's always more,
Yeah.
which
Even
sometimes it
like,
doesn't make sense to me because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, that's true," and then that doesn't make sense, but for some
well, the
reason it doesn't
same
go
with
that
like
far.
takeaway containers. If you order, a pizza or whatever,
Yeah.
the box, the driver, all that kind of stuff, you don't know. But I mean, if I was totally like, if I'm being totally honest, then I could have it anyway. I'd rather wash my hands more than I do. So yeah, I think you've
Oh,
actually got
that's
it better in
interesting.
that case. You're more
Oh,
hygienic
look at
than me.
this.
Let's just put it that way.
Maybe, but
Nah,
I
it's
guess
true.
where you are,
Yeah.
like, you come into contact with a lot of germs, like, in clubs and aeroplanes and all of that, so it's
I think
probably
my
more
immune
important.
system is better.
Yeah.
Maybe, maybe.
I mean, boy, if you're eating street food from India without any care of getting GI, then you are a braver soul than I because trust me, I
Nah,
got GI in Bali by association. I didn't even eat the bloody burger. It was my ex. And then he kissed me. I
oh,
didn't even know it can like transfer by kissing. He
Oh.
was ill and then I got ill and trust me, I've almost died several times. I've been in hospital for 10 days with sepsis and the
oh
GI.
my,
I was in more pain when I contracted GI from my ex because I genuinely was like, I think I'm going to die. Whereas when I
Oh.
had sepsis, I just thought it was a cold and I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And the doctors are like, how are you walking? You literally, legally should be dead because your blood tests are off the roof. But yeah, so if I hadn't had that experience, I'd be right there on Shrai's corner. I'd be like, yeah, just eat it. Like, I'll be sick and then we're fine. But because since I
yeah.
got GI back in 2017 in Bali, no, sorry.
But like I said though, you do have to like be a bit like, are they using water? Where's the water from?
Yeah,
Is there a lot of flies hanging about? Do you see any rats
true.
nearby?
Yeah, of course.
Has he at least trimmed his like nails and stuff? There's things like that.
Yeah, if the man's like scratching his ass and picking his nose and then he's going to give you like
Yeah, that's not
a
happening.
gatti roll,
Yeah,
then I'm like, no, thank you.
yeah.
So the other thing I was wanting to ask as well before we wrap this episode up was something we touched on in that first episode was, Saira, you said that some of your friends and family members kind of made fun out of you about what you were going through. And I found it quite upsetting, to be quite honest, when you said it. I remember you speaking and your energy just changed when you said it, and I was like, oh, I feel this now. I feel it for you. You said something about, people would make a joke about like how you were following the rules and how you would take your own straw and stuff. Let's go into that a little bit deeper because obviously we've got your brother here. I'm just going to say it. Were you one of those people, Shrey? Because I know what a dick my brother can be sometimes. Like, siblings can be such shits to each other. Even though we love each other the most and we share the most DNA, we also haze the other person the hardest in the world. I think it also
Yeah,
goes down to that you love that person and you will pretty much always forgive them. So you can go a bit deeper with the
yeah. I was definitely one of those people, but it wasn't a case of like making fun of it. It was more so like, Sarah, it's fine. I don't think I really took the mick out of much else, but it was more things like, things that I thought wouldn't make a difference if she just thought about it at the time. So things like, washing your hands so many times. I was like, you've done it. You don't need to do it again 10 minutes later. I think that was at the time the thought process, but I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
over
So what's
time,
changed now? And wait, before we go into that, Sarah, how
yeah,
did that make you then feel when he would say that to you? Is it like you don't
really,
understand, or what was your thought process behind your brother trying to kind of convince you otherwise?
What, this is at the time?
Yeah.
I think he's generally quite a, like, jokey person, and, like, we've had issues in the past where he said things that he viewed as jokes and maybe I've taken too seriously, which is not really anyone's fault. It's like different personalities. So I think he's already said, like, if you just assume that most of what I say in general is a joke, it will be much better. Like, it sounds a bit silly, but I
No,
do
it sounds
sometimes.
exactly like me. I say to
Yeah,
people, 99% of the time, I am actually
yeah,
just taking the piss. Please don't take me
yeah.
seriously.
But I think what made it more difficult was because it wasn't coming from me. Like, these are rules from the government. So it's not me saying that there should be this many people. It's the rules. And it's also like, well, if you're going close to someone and I'm not because I've been told not to, then it's unfair, which is not targeted at him, but just all the people generally that, maybe found it more difficult to stick to the rules or got frustrated. So, and then I think it was when we're in a group, it was more difficult. Because say, like, we play games, like online games, and it would be things like, oh, like, if Saira was going to get a tattoo, like, what would it be? And it would all come out like hand sanitizer, white, like that, which obviously now, like, yeah, it's funny, but, and
Uh,
I think it depends on the person. Like, some people who would say it, I know that's their personality, that they're not doing it to be mean.
mm.
But I think it was maybe just like the frequency that made it more difficult, the amount of people. But yeah, maybe it toughened me up a bit.
No, I think looking back, obviously, like you were just essentially following the rules, but I think it got mixed in with certain OCD traits or whatever. But,
Yeah.
at the time, technically, you're right. We should have just, if you're having a barbecue during COVID lockdown stuff, it should be 6 people. That was the rule, right? But sometimes if we had one extra or, someone's
Mm.
brought their brother or whatever, I would just be like, oh, it's fine. We're outdoors, barbecue's going on. It's not like we're hugging and kissing, like we're just sitting around a table, big table. And I used to just say, oh, it's fine, like it's not a big deal. But Saira would she'd almost say I should go inside and you guys just carry on because then there's 6 of you. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think Saira at the time took it actually pretty well because we were
Yeah, but
just
then
taking the mick a lot. But yeah,
yeah, but then now when I think back, I'm like, but if it was 7, then it's actually not a big deal. So now I'm thinking like that you never really know until you're in it.
Yeah. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, right?
looking back now that Sarah spent more time with my friends and the guys that I hang out with, she's probably more understanding that they were definitely joking with all these jokes. They're just my circle's very
It,
light-hearted and
yeah.
they will just take the mick out of each other. It's a boys thing as well, I think.
I think it's just I don't like to add gender labels on stuff because trust me, my girls are some of the conversations that we've had. I remember like the guys that I was dating, and even my ex was like, "You guys talk like this," and I'm like, "Yes, we do. We're just as inappropriate, and there's sometimes, if not cruder, than guys because
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
girls tell each other everything, like everything, whereas guys, you have like your jokes and stuff, but girls, we go real deep. Anyway, what I'm kind of getting back at is that hardly anything is done in malice.
Mm.
Very rarely do people say things to be mean. It's just depending on what you're feeling, right? Because, like, but the thing is, what I kind of picked up on there as well was when you were talking about it, the both of you, from Shrai's end, and obviously friends and family who were quite kind of like, hey, it's just one more person. It kind of took away a little bit from what someone like Saira was feeling, because I had some similar experiences, not to the same extent, but in my family circle as well. Whereas some of my cousins and stuff were a little bit more relaxed, whereas some of the people were a bit more strict. And I think it also comes back to what you were saying at the beginning about who was in your circle, who was shielding, who was looking after vulnerable people, because even though
Yeah.
you wanted to do X, Y, and Z, your level of love, care, and responsibility kind of overrid that. Overrid? Overrided? Is overrid a
Overrode.
word? No, overrided. Overrided's the word. Yeah, I sometimes make up words. So overrided that need of, well, yeah, this is what I feel, which, kind of shows that your priority was obviously keeping your loved one safe. But,
Yeah.
that kind of speaks volumes. So I mean, this has been a really interesting, beautiful conversation. And I wanted to say thank you so much to both of you for coming on and sharing your thoughts and feelings on this topic, which I know, again, a lot of people will resonate. And it's really interesting to see it from somebody else's perspective as well. So I don't know if you know this, Trey, but because I'm known as a 1 minute healer, every episode ends with a 1 minute meditation. So before we do that, any closing, I feel like I'm a judge now. Any closing statements from both parties?
I was just going to say that I think in any relationship, friends, family, siblings, etc., I think whilst all the joking stuff is great, like obviously that's a good thing that you can do, but I think it's trying to find a balance between like setting your own boundaries and then respecting each other. Like not just for someone, like obviously I was struggling in that sense, but then also like Shraii was struggling in a different way where like he couldn't do his work, and like it's just trying to balance it for both people, but just remembering that everyone's got their own things going on, even though it might not show. Like, a lot of it is mental. So just to remember
It's a
that.
really good point.
Yeah, good point. And just quickly follow up on that when you mentioned that. Shraii, when you were growing up, like, did you feel that everything had to kind of be tailored to Saira's needs and requirements? Did you feel at any point kind of like, well, what about mine kind of thing? Or
Um,
was that not really a
no, I
thing?
didn't really think what about mine, but growing up, I was a bit like, um, oh, because obviously we were so young. I was like, why there's so many rules and things we
Mm.
should. But after a while, I was just like, it's not even a thing anymore. Like it's all good. Like Saira has a certain way of being and living, and I have a certain way of being and living. And like Saira said, you have to just adapt to each other's ways of life. And if people want to socialize with me or want to socialize with Saira, you need to learn that this is just how certain people are. And if you don't like
Yeah.
it, you don't need to socialize with them. It's as simple as that,
Very
really.
well said. Very
Yeah, it's
well
true.
said. And the only reason I ask is because in different circumstances, I find that sometimes people who think and feel a certain way. So, for example, like I'm not a religious person, I'm spiritual, but I've never been really religious. And what I'd find is in my family that someone who was super religious and had thoughts and feelings about a certain thing, situation, or a topic, well, it goes against my religion and my beliefs. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I have my beliefs as well. I might not be religious, but I still have my beliefs and my morals. So why does the religious person views and like standpoints trump
Yeah.
mine just because I don't
Mm.
associate with a certain religion? Like I would always that I used to struggle with. I'm kind of got better at kind of adjusting and balancing it out now. But yeah, it was just something that kind of sprung to mind. But no, that makes sense. So thank you so much, Saira. As always, I will leave both of your links and socials down below. But I just wanted to say, you are smashing it at the moment. Really, really great to see all the things that you're doing. And then Shraii, please let us know anything that you want to add, closing statements.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it, and we'll stay in touch, I'm sure. My
Well, I
socials,
want
you
tickets
said
to
you're
your
gonna
next
link
gig,
them.
please. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you. No worries, anytime. So yeah, just hit us up. That's it. Drop a little follow.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll put those. Remember to obviously follow both Saira and Shraii, give them some support, and I'm sure people will be listening and resonating with everything we said. So before we go, I'm just going to do the final 1 minute meditation. So, listeners, if it is safe for you to do so, please go ahead, close your eyes, take a nice deep breath in through your nose, hold for a few seconds, and then release out through your mouth. Relax your shoulders, drop your jaw, and just really come into the present moment, allowing your mind, allowing your body just to become nice and still, and allowing the topic of what we've discussed today to really integrate and just taking a moment to reflect on your own situations, on your own struggles, on your own boundaries, and seeing where maybe in the past, where we may have said or done things that we're maybe not the most proud of or made people feel uncomfortable. Just knowing that life is always full of highs and lows and swings and roundabouts, and knowing that you can always come back to your safe, sacred space, which is your physical body, your energy and your mind, and knowing that the importance of keeping everything in alignment is always there with you. So just take one last deep breath in through your nose. Hold for a few seconds and give yourself a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of stillness, allowing your energy to become nice and still. And as you breathe out through your mouth, you can open your eyes. And I just want to say thank you, guests. Remember to download, share this episode with someone you think might resonate with it, and I will see you all on the next episode. Sending you love, light, and blessings.